we launched the franchise model in 2017, and it was in February, and in October we already had 6 franchises. So it was a very demanding period, and I thought that, okay, I have seen some traction here. Let's build a team, let's scale the company, and let's bet on this, because it was my time. Of course, I was living a very good corporate career, but it was my time. So I think that it was the moment where I felt that I really needed to do this.
Hi, I'm James Moore, and welcome to the Drive Face podcast from Coordinate Sports. This is a show about sports founders, leaders, and experts, and the stories behind their business journeys. And today we're lucky enough to have Alejandro, the CEO of Sportmadness, on the show with us, discussing all things franchise, digital, and growth. Enjoy the show. So I am really delighted to welcome Alejandro Garcia to the show today. He is founder and CEO of Sportmadness, their digital sports franchise, already working in 9 countries across the world and growing rapidly. So yeah, really privileged to have you on today. Welcome to the show.
Many thanks, James, for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're just having a little chat in the preamble there. I think for all of our guests, they've probably seen we're talking about LinkedIn profile and LinkedIn kind of network, and they've probably seen you on there. But for the ones who haven't, or for even for our regular listeners, we like to learn a little bit more about you and go back to the start, go back to childhood. We do work in kind of sports coaching, so kind of looking at what that impact was like. So you grew up in Madrid, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I grew up in Las Rozas, which is a city near Madrid.
Awesome. And in terms of, I guess, your connection with sport, or your first sporting memory, what was that? What was that for you? And was it did it play a big part in your childhood?
I have loved sports since I have memory. So all my life has been surrounded by sports, mainly football. I'm a huge football fan. Even not just a sport, but in my life, the first thing I remember is watching the '94 World Cup with my father. Spain was eliminated by Italy, so it was my first the first thing I remember. Yeah, it's a very big disappointment. But later in my life, football has been very nice with me, with the World Cup and also the Champions League my team has won. So I think that
Real Madrid, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Not Atletico, right? Cool. Got it. Cool. So yeah, in terms of, and this is good for our UK listeners, or to get a bit of a different perspective. So growing up in Spain, what was what part did sport play in schools and in kind of just in your general culture and your lifestyle growing up?
I think that in Spain we are very privileged with the sport environment we have, because there is a lot of investment made by the public administrations here in Spain. So in every little village, even you can find very good sport facilities and very good sport programs. Probably not very professionalized. That's our paper, but they exist. So you have a lot of options to do sports on a very accessible way. So I think that the environment we can find here is very good. So that's why I have been all my life playing football and different sports, and it's very accessible for everyone, because the state and also the city councils mainly invest a lot of money on these sport programs.
So is that, when you say programs, is that kind of the facilities, the infrastructure, or is that coaching out in the community as well?
Yeah, it's the facilities and also coaching programs and events. So for example, we have 30 franchises here in Spain, and our biggest clients are city councils and communities. So it's very important, the paper of the public administrations here in sports.
And we always ask as well in terms of your journey, so entrepreneur now and running the thriving franchise business. Was that something that you always wanted to go into? Did you always want to run your own business? Was that kind of planned in terms of your education and academia?
Well, it was not a plan, but it's something that I have been wanting since I was like 12 years old, 13 years old. I have all my life loved business and sports, so to mix them, it was like the perfect thing for me. But I started Sportmadness in 2012. At the same time, I started my career as a management consultant in PwC. So I made my corporate career over the years until one point in 2017, where we launched the franchising model, and it started to work very well. And I left my corporate career and I focused on Sportmadness. But it was not the perfect plan. It was not a plan. It's something that just happened.
Cool. So yeah, we'll definitely get into that in terms of running the business side by side with the kind of full-time career. But from a, I guess, education point of view, you travelled abroad and you went over to the States. Was that with university or post university?
No, it was within my university. It was like the Erasmus program that we have in Europe. It was like the Erasmus program, but I had the possibility to do it in Texas. So for me, it was much more exciting to do it in the States than not in Italy or Belgium, typical things in Erasmus. So I went to Texas A&M. It's a huge university in College Station.
Yeah, huge sports university as well, right?
Huge sports university. Yeah. The sport there is a religion. So for me, it was like, I'm at home here. So it was just a semester, but it was really nice. And it was just probably where I saw the opportunity to build a sport management company to professional amateur sports. And it was, for me, it was a great experience because it's the tuition of that university is huge, and I had a grant to go there, so it was an amazing experience for me, an amazing opportunity.
Nice. And so when you were over there, obviously you've seen the scale of sport, college sport in the US is really hard to compare to what's going on in Europe. But was it a case of you saw that and you thought, right, this is an opportunity, this is where I want to be for my career, or there's a big opportunity here for me to do something? Yeah,
absolutely. I think when you go there and you realize the size of the college sports, it's amazing. So their stadium where they play American football, it's like any stadium, any professional football stadium here. So it's amazing. The coach of the university team was earning like $4 million, something like that. So it's unbelievable, the size and also the passion they have for the university is something that we lack here in Europe, and it's something that I think that we are missing. So. Yeah, I guess I wish that one day we can have something like that in Europe, and maybe if we are able to build it, that much better.
Nice. And then, so for your, I guess, leaving university, and you mentioned already that you went into kind of management consulting. Was that kind of generic management consulting, or was it sports focused at that time? It'd be good to hear kind of the journey through that, and I guess a lot of lessons learned that you're bringing forward now into the business.
I didn't touch anything related with sports when I was doing management consulting in PwC. I worked with the public sector. I with telecommunications companies or industrial companies, but I didn't touch sports because, I think that PwC here in Spain at least is not very strong in that part. So I didn't touch any sport. Later, I worked in cybersecurity, so I didn't touch sport, and also in technology and retail. So I have never touched sports apart from Sportmadness.
Okay, cool. But I guess as you're working through that from the corporate side and the working with the C-suites, etc., is it a case that you're looking at? You mentioned your customer base being kind of local government or the kind of municipal governments, etc. Was it a case that you kind of seeing maybe where you could slot in, or are you building the business plan at the same time and thinking about, let me take a bit of this? I think I can improve it here.
Of course. I think that working in companies like in consulting firms, it gives you a very good base of how to work with different entities and how to and our challenge is to apply what we learn, from other companies in our experience, also in other categories of business, to apply that to amateur sports, which is our niche focus. So it's something that we have been working on it, implementing these best practices in the amateur sport industry. So of course, my experience in consulting has helped me to develop the core competences that we have now managing this kind of clients, also with very big companies as we work right now.
And I'm always curious, or we love to get the story on the show, kind of the founding story and the genesis of the idea. So I guess you're working at PwC. I'm assuming stress, travel, a lot of travel to clients, etc., on a flight every week or whatever it is, like that classic consulting role. Is it a case that you've had enough, or is it just like, how did you launch, or how did you I guess take that first step to get the first Sportsmadness session or whatever it was at the time event?
When I went back from the US, it was like January 2012, something like that. So we had in Spain a huge crisis in that period. So I had some subjects to cover to end my degree. So I had 6 months to do things, and I thought, okay, let's start a company and let's start learning from real life instead of doing a master, for example. I want to see real.
So a real life MBA type thing, yeah.
Yeah, real life MBA. Yeah, much harder, I think that, but it was a huge experience, and And then I started the company doing some sports services, some campus, some tournaments, amateur sports related things, and I really liked it. But I was looking for a job at the same time, so I was very lucky to start in a company like PwC. So I have been because Sportmadness for me is not a job, it's not work, it's my hobby and it's my life. So I love it. So I never seen myself working in Sportmadness. It was my hobby. So I'm very fortunate that my hobby is not my job and my company. So that's how I handled this difficult thing, because in consulting the journeys and the days are very, very long, as you can imagine. I'm also traveling, working with different clients with a lot of pressure. So, but I handled it because it was like my hobby.
Got it. And so that initial, like you said about the camps, etc., was that you creating those and delivering those, or were you working with, like I said, with the governments, or were you did you have a team at that point, or just literally you kind of during the day you're doing that, and then in the nights you or vice versa?
It was a very small and familiar team managing the different events or relationships we have with public entities, also private entities. But it was a very familiar team. It was something something very little. We did just in that years we did like 40, 50 kind of services. So it was very, very easy to manage company in that much easier than now. Yeah. So I was just supervising the operations and trying to help the team that was managing the company.
Got it. And then, so was there a point where, although obviously it came a point where you thought, right, I can step away from my kind of corporate career and really kind of go all in on Sportmadness? What was that trigger? Was there a milestone that you were waiting to hit, or was there a point when you said, right, look, I have to do it now? There's kind of, you always have that itch as an entrepreneur. You're like, it's kind of time's ticking, I need to get started.
Yeah, it arrived at a point. We launched the franchise model in 2017, and it was in February, and in October we already had 6 franchises. So it was a very demanding period, and I thought that, okay, I have seen some traction here. Let's build a team, let's scale the company, and let's bet on this, because it was my time. Of course, I was living a very good corporate career, but it was my time. So I think that it was the moment where I felt that I really needed to do this.
And so when you've made that decision, was there a point where, and I guess a lot of people, let's scale up, did you have to raise any funds? Did you have like bring investors in or anything like that? Was it fully bootstrapped? How did you go about I guess that's a big one that our listeners probably would be curious in terms of, like, they might have a business that's going on and they want to really take it to the next level. What was the steps that you took?
That's a very interesting point. We did bootstrapping the first 2.5 years. So we were bootstrapping. So very few resources, trying to do things as efficient as possible. And later we decided to do our first investment round, and we had a lot of smart money. So we have now very top people as investors helping in the business. So I'm very proud of the kind of investors we have and the help they give to me. So it has been very helpful, not only for the money, but also for the help. We did one investment round just 2 months before COVID. So the timing was perfect to survive during COVID. And then we did another one in November 2021. So now we are a venture-backed company.
Awesome. And then I guess with that comes a plan to kind of rapidly grow and scale. But before we touch on that, I'm really curious in terms of drilling down on in the actual offer, if you know what I mean. So if for a franchise offer or for a service offer to end user participant customer, what do those look like? So you mentioned the camps before, but is it still the same as it was, or is that kind of adjusted slightly? We
have 2 main focuses. But they are very broad. Okay, so we have sport events, and we have sport academies where you can find the camps. But the kind of projects and the kind of sports that we do is our portfolio is huge. So it's good sometimes, but it's bad sometimes. But it has an explanation, because we have franchises in Spain, in Bolivia, in Switzerland, in Italy. So very different environments, socioeconomical environments. So we have to fit for everyone. Okay, so. That's why we have, and it's very good because we are getting a lot of know-how on how to build different sport events or different academies in so many countries. And that's something that we can replicate locally, adapt and replicate. So we mainly do events and sport academies, but it's very broad, as you can imagine, from tournaments, races. In the case of the academies, we do academies for private schools, for city councils, for communities. So it's a very open, which is something very interesting because we are learning each day on how to develop better sport projects, and it's something that we acquire and something that we put in our databases, and it's information that our franchisees can use to adapt and replicate those projects locally.
Got it. Because I know we used the term earlier on, kind of digital franchise, so we could talk about that. But I guess one of the questions I always have for franchise owners is kind of the standardization, right? So it's because you've got the different territories and maybe the different approaches in all those territories, and also the different kinds of license holders, franchisees, whether they're government, commercial, etc. How do you go about standardizing everything across the board, or to make sure that you're getting that same kind of experience attending Sport Madness wherever you are?
That's a very good question, and something that we are a bit obsessed to achieve it, because we want to guarantee the same experience for someone in Brighton as someone in Madrid. So we want the same good experience for everyone, independently of where they are. So we have the guide of how to run a sport event or academy step by step. So, but the main ingredient here is the quality of the franchisee. So you can have the best processes, you can be McDonald's or any other top franchise, but if you don't have the quality people behind those processes, you don't have nothing. So that's why we really care about the profile of the franchisees that we include in our community. So that mix between processes plus the quality of the people is what guarantees that the franchise or the quality of the event or the sport academy is going to be homogeneous everywhere.
And this is a challenge across the board. Obviously, we're talking about recruiting franchise owners, but recruitment in general. And it's just a running theme that we're talking to everyone about on the show. So are you finding that either way, recruiting new franchise owners or recruiting the kind of delivery team and training? Are you obviously finding the same challenges globally? And are you working across so many countries? As
you have said, recruiting is very difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing. I think that the most difficult thing is managing cash and people. So it's very, very difficult to manage both things. So especially people, and to find people. I think that people that are in the sport industry, we are very lucky because it's a very sexy industry. So a lot of very smart people that could be working in banking, consulting, or other kind of industries want to work here because they love sports. So we are very lucky on that part. I have worked in cybersecurity, and it was much more difficult to recruit people than now in sports. So because it's very sexy. So we in every recruitment that we do, it could be franchises, it could be people for the HQ or people to do the coaching sports programs or whatever. We have done a very database approach where we value some indicators, and we base our decisions in the numbers because it's the way to be fair for everyone. So that's our approach on hiring. It has granted very good results. We have a very strong intern program. We really believe in develop people. So nowadays we are 15 in HQ, and probably 8 of them were interns in the past. Now, for example, our head of operations, it was an intern 3 years ago, head of sales the same. So we really believe in develop people. So we really care and consider and we pay attention to the recruitment process. Also for the franchisees, we have a very database approach and to evaluate the quality of each franchisees. Of course, we made mistakes a lot of times, but I think it has granted us the tools to get the top quality people, because it's what we need. If you want to be successful, you need top people, and it's very difficult to find good people.
And I mean, thinking about that in general, just from a franchise perspective, who are you looking for? Who's your kind of avatar, the ideal franchisee? Is it? And I know because I'm curious with the kind of the two areas, or like government versus commercial operators. Who are you looking for when you're going out to market for a franchisee?
That's very curious because we have like three different buckets of people. One, their common denominator is that they love sports, of course, but we are looking for the quality of the people that we are looking for, or the attributes of the people is that they have common sense and that we share values with them. We don't care about gender, age, wherever. So we have a very distributed network of franchisees. But in education or professional background, we see three different buckets. One is the person that have studied sport management or any sport management related topic and is interested in the area. The second one would be the people that have been working in the industry for an agency, for an sport events company, for a sport camps company or whatever. Also, former athletes can be in that bucket. And the third point is we call them life changers. It's people that have been working in companies for 15, 20 years and they change their careers and they start working as a franchisee. So if you find our 45 franchises, we can divide it practically perfectly, 15 in each bucket, more or less.
Awesome. And I guess we touched on it before about the digital franchise, like that term. Are you able to just, I guess, expand on that in terms of, I'm curious in terms of how that, is that a case of how you communicate with the network, or is it like digital first? What's the premise behind that term?
Our approach is digital but personal. So we have our success managers work daily with them. So they communicate by phone, by email, by chat, that we have a community chat. So we travel to visit them. So it's the relationship is digital but very close. So we are 100% remote company. So we have people working all around Europe right now. So our approach is mainly digital but very personal. So we try to communicate and to make also the support that we give to them is 100% personalized, because we understand that each region is different, each profile is different. We have 25 years old guy, very digital profile in an urban area, and we have 50 years old person, no digital background, working in a rural area, but we are finding a lot of business there also. So the support that we give them is 100% personalized.
Definitely. I mean, it feels like you're kind of on the edge of kind of new working practices, right? So you like remote first, etc., digital first. And this is something that we speak to our customers a lot about. It's kind of digital adoption, and the world, every industry is going to be digital at some point. So it's kind of you're ahead of the game. What are the challenges currently? Because obviously not everyone's there. Maybe client, like you mentioned, there's some of the licensees and maybe some of the clients. What are the challenges you find with that approach? And I guess is there anything that can combat them?
Everything is getting more digital each day, and we have to accept it. And we have to technology for us is not our. It's not our focus. We see technology as a tool to deliver better experience for the franchisee, to have a very proper and visual delivery of the knowledge that we have, tools to communicate, very good. You are in the UK, I'm in Madrid, and we are talking like if you were here, very close to me. So I think that we have to leverage this kind of tools, but they should be a medium for something. They should not be the final point. So we see with that perspective. We try to integrate all the tools that we have to make our franchisees more productive and also to take care of the customer experience of the final client and the final user. So we see them as tools, and we are looking forward to adopt new tools like artificial intelligence or wherever may help our franchisees to be more productive or to deliver a better customer experience for our final clients and users.
So thinking about the growth that you mentioned there, VC backed, you put up some growth targets to achieve, I suppose. What does that look like in kind of 3 to 5 years? And I know I'm curious as well in terms of like maybe geographically, are there specific pockets that you want to tap into, get into?
Yeah, in our growth plan is very clear. We want to arrive to 100 franchises as soon as possible, because we have seen that the really successful franchises are in 100 or more locations. So if you see only 15% of franchises arrive to that point, so we see that, and they also sell the 80% of the franchises that got sold each year. So it's like a virtuous circle. So we want to be there. And
so that's kind of the network effects flywheel. Once you get to that 100, it's the momentum just takes it off.
It's a perfect flywheel. And yeah, it's like the richest get richer, no? So that's the point. That virtuous circle is one where what we are building also the economies of scale, because more resources means more talent, more tools, a better brand. So that's very powerful for each franchisee. So our goal is to rise to the 100 probably this year. And our main focus areas of growth are the biggest markets in Europe. So the UK, the DACH market, which is Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Also the French market with Belgium, Luxembourg. Also Italy, and of course keep growing in Spain. But we are also looking forward to growing the rest of Europe. So countries like Slovenia, Croatia, Israel are very interesting for us. And Latin America, because it's very culturally close to us. It's easier for us as a Spanish company to go there. So we are already very established in Mexico, and we want to grow also in Brazil and in the other markets. So LATAM and Europe are going to be our main focus. We have native people for each country. So to understand the culture and to really adapt our product and what we have to those markets. So let's see if it's not 3-5 years, if we can talk next year and we have arrived to that point. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because we are not going to compromise on quality to arrive to that point. So we are very picky with the profiles. And even starting in new countries, the challenge is even bigger because the first franchisee have to be a reference for the rest of the franchisees. So we are very picky in the profiles, and that's a handicap that we have to grow very fast. We understood that we are not going to grow as fast as a SaaS company can do, because when you're a SaaS company, you don't care, between quotes, about the quality of your final client. In this case, we really care about the capabilities and the quality of our final client, which is the franchisee. So that's the handicap that we have in our road. But I think that we are each day getting better on picking the good profiles and to convince them that we can help them to build a successful career in sports.
Yeah, and I guess the market is one thing. I'm curious because you're working across those areas. I know you mentioned Latin America being close, obviously. Spanish-speaking, Portuguese-speaking, etc., is going to be a closer fit. But as you go around those markets in Europe, do you see that some obviously there'll be some that are more established with this type of product versus others, and what are the major differences that you see from kind of territory to territory?
They are huge in every point. So we are very close in geographically, but we are worlds apart in culturally or any other thing. So even when the recruitment of first of all, I think that the franchise world is very good understood for example, in the UK, is very good understood, as in the US. In Spain, in Italy, it's not known. So we are starting from zero. So when we talk with someone in the UK, they perfectly understand what a franchise is, even a digital franchise. They are very used to these kind of models. In Italy, in France, or in other countries, that doesn't happen. So that's a barrier we have to.
What's the difference in those countries? Is it just a case of everyone being a lot more independent, or not having to kind of follow the franchise formula and stuff? Is that the difference?
Yeah, I don't know why, but even in Spain, when you think about franchise, it's not cool. Okay, in the US, it's different. In the UK, it's different because I think that here in Spain, okay, this franchise is not like a very good term. So it's not cool. But in other countries, it is. I don't know why. Probably because we don't have here in Spain, maybe because the market is very small. We don't have big franchises that they can have in the US. So if you ask someone here in Spain the number of 3 franchises, they can only give you one, McDonald's. So I am sure that doesn't happen in the UK. So neither in the US. So in Italy, they don't think that even McDonald's is, for example, a franchise. So that's the first step. The second step is how to recruit people. We have seen that the different sources to get leads that we have in each in our strategy apply very different in each market. So the paid ads work very differently in the UK than in Germany, than in France, than of course in Mexico. The LinkedIn strategy that we have works very good in some countries and very bad in others. So that's why we have different kind of strategies to get leads. So and also the kind of business that you can have in some countries is very different. For example, in Europe, we are much more B2B than what we are in LATAM, where we are mainly B2C. So the kind of clients that our franchisees are going to have are very different in each market. So, and also not in each market, in each country, because it's not the same London as the north of Scotland in the case of the UK. So we are going to have very different clients. So we need different profiles for each region. So that's where complexity lives in our model.
I need to ask you this in terms of our listeners. I think you're going to be able to give a bit of insight here. So for someone who's using social ads and who's active with that, and I'm assuming a fairly strong ad spend on those, how are you kind of managing the changes that have happened recently? So kind of, I guess, the effectiveness of the Facebook Meta ad platform, where a lot of our industry would have used that more for B2C for sure, but they would have used that, and then maybe they're seeing the effectiveness of that diminish. Are you seeing the same thing, backed by data, etc.? Kind of what steps are you taking at the moment?
To answer your question, it's amazing how the importance of the copy of the message and the way you set the campaign to have good results. We are seeing changes every week in the campaigns. So one campaign that has worked very good stopped working and doesn't work anymore. So that's why we don't rely on just one source to do our marketing to get leads. And that's why we have 3 different buckets. We have the paid ads bucket, we have the organic bucket, and we have the experiment bucket. And if you see the sales that we did last year, we sold 22 franchises. Probably we sold 7 in each bucket. And that's very good because we are not attached to just one bucket. And normally people just pay attention to paid ads, but I think that it can't be your only strategy. You have to do other things apart, because you are in one change of the algorithm, maybe you are out. And the cost of the ads are getting more expensive each day. So that's very bad. It damages our unit economics. So it's something that you cannot rely. Of course, we need them. Sadly, we need them. I wish we can do just organic content to really help others, and we will find some leads there, and also experiments, which is something that I really like because it's much more smart than just to do the paid ads. But I think that the paid ads is a tax that we have to pay to grow as fast as we want to grow.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of gets to that point where it feels like it's pay to play definitely on the kind of Meta platform. So you might have great content, but they know who it needs to be shown to, but they won't show it to them unless you give them some money, right? This is kind of like, we've got your customers here and pay us and we'll let them see it, basically. It's
very curious because I always ask my marketing people, why did we receive yesterday so many leads and today we have received just 1? So, and it's because of the algorithm. So I don't want to depend on the Meta's algorithm, to be honest. So that's why we are also promoting other parts of marketing that, of course, give us less leads, but the quality of the leads is amazing. From organic sources, for example, it's much better. So that's why I prefer it. But of course, we need more leads to filter the good ones.
Definitely. And then in terms of others, I know LinkedIn, strong on LinkedIn. Are you looking at other things like TikTok, etc.? Are you big on there as well, or is it just kind of dipping your toe in there?
No, because we think that the content that you have to generate for being in each platform is very difficult and very different. So, for example, we know how to do professional content like for LinkedIn, and I think that we have a very good profile on LinkedIn, and we have a lot of success in LinkedIn, but we don't know how to do content for TikTok. And I think that probably the public that we are going to find in TikTok is not the profile that are going to hire us as a franchisor or hire the services of our clients. So at least we don't see it in that point. We think that in marketing, you and we have made that mistake sometimes. You cannot be playing at a very good level in every social media. So we left Twitter like 2 years ago because we can't be good in every social media. So we are very focused on LinkedIn. We are growing on Instagram, and that's our social media reach. By now, probably in 1 year or 2 years, if we see another new platform, we will review it as we review every tech tool. So we are always looking to new tools to implement, but we are very focused on the thing, or we try to be very focused on the things that we do. And in marketing, you have to be very focused. It's not you can get crazy any moment.
And I know we've been just talking there about a lot of challenges with, I guess, social media on digital ads, but really want to kind of ask you, as a leader, what are your kind of day-to-day challenges as you're running the business that you kind of that are recurring, you've got to kind of continually get over them. It's a startup phase, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that the main challenge we have as a company and I have as a leader is to make our franchisees successful. And that's where 80% of my mind and my effort and my team effort goes, because that's why our mission as a company is to make people successful. So not only, of course, of our franchisees, but our investors, our final clients, our final users, our employees. So our mission is to make our franchisees successful. And that's the biggest challenge, because it's difficult. This business is not easy. Well, I think that no business is easy, but I think that that's our biggest challenge. We have already dozens of success stories, which is, for me as a founder, is the thing that I feel most proud of it, because seeing people generating wealth for their families through our model, of course, through their effort, plus our model. So that's amazing, and that's our biggest challenge. And it's a challenge that is not going to never end. We have each day dozens of proposals to do, new proposals for clients, new projects, new problems in those projects. So it's an infinite game.
And given all your time with, obviously, time in management consulting and working with so many clients, etc., and as you're doing now, running the business, have you developed any type of philosophies for Alejandro's approach to business, or to being a CEO, to being a leader? Have you got any kind of pillars for that?
Yeah, for me, empathy, I think, is the most important thing. It's something that I learned from my father, to treat other people as you want to be treated, and it all started from there. So I think that with that in mind, everything gets easier. So of course I understand that I have to give value to others to take value from them. So understanding them and implementing that on a daily basis, which is the difficult thing, because I think that we all have crystal clear that, but to implement those values and those kind of things each day is the difficult part. And how do you implement that on a business proposal or in a franchisee proposal and things like that to find a win-win for everyone? I think that's probably the mindset that I have, the most important thing in my mindset. Also with employees, of course, if I want to have good people, I have to compensate them well. So even the interns, we compensate our interns, because we believe that if you want to have good people and motivated people, you have to compensate them. And it's to be fair, just fair, and also demand the others to be fair with you.
You mentioned empathy there, and I guess connection. Being a remote first business, how are you? I guess that must be a challenge as itself. And what's your kind of approach to that? Bringing people together, building that connection. Like you said, we're talking on online now, and it feels connected. But how do you do it like consistently, especially as your team's growing quickly?
It's very nice. I like it. We are remote first by accident, because we had an office before COVID. We left the office in February 2020, and we have never go back. But
a lot of businesses like that, right? I guess, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, and I think that if you want to have good talent, they normally want to be remote, and they want to work wherever they want. So I believe in freedom. So I don't want to ask you to commute 1 hour, 2 hours each day to come to the office. I prefer you to take that time to rest more, to get your kids to the school or to wherever. So I think that, again, it's give to take. So as a company, of course, sometimes you see your productivity reduced because of this, because working together is much different. So, for example, we spent the second week of January, we spent a whole week, the whole team together here in Madrid. So the kind of advances that you have when you are all together, it's amazing. But I think that the happiness of our employees, it's huge because of remote working. And also we try to see each other 4 times per year, more or less, to spend at least a week together, to work in some things, to know all the people in the team, because we are adding new members each time. So the challenges are there, but I think that if you have good people, you don't need to control them, so you can give them freedom to live their lives. If you have kids, maybe you have to go and look for them to the school or in the morning, or if you have to go to a medical appointment or wherever. We give people freedom to that because they get results. So I think that it's fair, and we are going to keep being remote, 100% remote. And also it gives us the opportunity to hire people all around the world, not just people living in Madrid. So that's amazing. We have people living in Portugal, in Germany, in Italy. That's awesome. And we really like that mobility and be close to the operations.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I guess from a time zone perspective as well, as you're growing across those different areas in the world, having that flexibility rather than saying, like, in Madrid, the office is closed at 5 p.m. or whatever, having that responsiveness can only be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we aspire to be a global leader. So for that, you have to be globally located. It's impossible to build something like that just in Madrid. So I'm very happy with this approach. And in the future, we will hire people in the US and in India. You never know, but our ambition is to be really global, and for that we have to have people disseminated in all parts. So of course it has challenges, but it's something that the pros are much bigger than the cons here, at least for us as a company. Maybe if you have any other kind of company, you can't do that, but in our case, I think that the pros are much bigger.
Yeah, definitely works well for you. In terms of your for you, like you mentioned earlier on, running a business like feels like a hobby. It's really enjoyable, etc. But that must, obviously, with the scale and the way you're growing, that must come with some stresses and things. How do you go about kind of tackling that, managing that, staying on top performance? Do you have habits and routines or things that you lean on to help you?
I have a 3-year-old daughter. So before she was born, I have a lot of very good habits, productivity.
Yeah, perfect routine. Yeah,
morning routine, afternoon routine, night routine. It was perfect. Now she managed my routine much more. So, but I enjoy her a lot. So it's a good thing to do. But yeah, I try to rest at least 8 hours per night. When I was younger, I slept like 5 hours and I was very good. But since she was born, I tried to rest a lot. I try to be very focused on on the most important things. So assume that if you want to have a good strategy, you will have to find some trade-offs. And it's difficult because there are a lot of shiny objects in the market, So there are a lot of projects, people you want to talk with, projects you want to launch, but it's difficult. So I have learned to be very focused and how to apply that focus. And if I work 10, 12 hours, be very, very productive on what I do. I like to set very clear outputs for the team and also clear deadlines for the team. So be very productive oriented, to have enough time to play with my daughter and stay with the family, with the friends, which is something that I have learned that it's very important. In my first years, I was like the typical entrepreneur, totally focused on the business, and I was not paying attention to the most important things in life, which is health and family. So that's a mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs have done or do. So I think that's my biggest learn. I try to apply this kind of habits, so have a morning routine, so to do exercise, to these kind of things. But my agenda is on the hands of a 3-year-old right now, so it's much more difficult to manage.
And I'm going to ask you this one, just kind of a supplementary question in terms of, given the focus on digital and tech, etc. Do you have a tool, if you're going to recommend a tool, or do you have something that you use, maybe it's a little app to do something, or something you kind of use constantly and you maybe recommend to any of the listeners?
Yeah, I think that my favorite tool for productivity is the Microsoft environment. I think it's amazing what they are doing. So we are using Teams, Office, Outlook, everything is integrated. I think that I really believe in how, and they are an inspiration on how they make an environment of tools to use and very focused. Probably they lack the design of other companies. Like, for example, Apple design is amazing. Microsoft is not. But yeah, I think that we try to use as less tools as possible, but to really exploit their operation. So, for example, we are using 10, 12 different Microsoft tools, probably things that people don't know that they exist. So, I think that Microsoft, of course, my iPhone is key in my life, as you can imagine, and probably for you. So, I think that, but the good thing is that nowadays we have plenty of tools that can help us in being much more productive and giving our clients the very good customer experience. So I think that that's very good. And we have understood that as a company, we cannot compete in every part of what we need. So we are not going to make a CRM. We are not going to make other tools where there are specialists, like, for example, coordinators and specialists on some things. So we cannot build, it doesn't make sense for us to build that. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that it's very nice for now as a founder to have all the resources that SaaS company or even no-code companies can put in your hands.
Yeah, and it's a good point there on Microsoft. It's kind of everyone knows Word, Excel, Outlook, but I think if you just dive a little bit deeper into that license that you're paying for, there's maybe another 10, 20 apps in there that can help you grow your business. Most people don't even realize they've got the license to them, just packed like bundled. So
absolutely, and we are always tempted to launch new projects, to build new tools, and that's something very sexy. And every founder like that kind of things. But then you realize that already exists, and even if it's in your Office subscription, so you can leverage on that, and you don't need to build a new training platform if you are already using Microsoft Stream, for example. So it's something that we have learned also with we had 4 developer teams in the past, but we discovered that tech wasn't going to be where we can be top players in the field. So we are obsessed on being the best in developing know-how and a brand to build this best sports services. So we cannot compete in that field and also compete with Microsoft, Google.
I was going to say, competing with Microsoft is a tough one, right?
Yeah, or compete against Coordinate and build your amazing product. So that's impossible. So
Thank you.
It's something that it's not our focus. It's your focus, but not our focus. So we cannot compete with someone that is very focused on what they do. So that's why we are not doing. Sport management is huge, the kind of things. You can represent players, you can do professional sports, you can do a lot of things. So that's why we are very focused on niche in events and academies, because we want to be the best on what we do. And for that, you require focus.
In that niche, yeah. And you touched on there in terms of marketing branding, and that is like for yourselves, you'd say that is one of your focuses, one of the areas where you excel. How did you go about, I guess, creating the brand and making sure that that's representative of your values, etc. And plus, like at Sport Madness, how does that translate across the different territories? Does it always land in terms of terminology and?
Yeah, no, in terminology, I think that people in the Spanish markets, they don't understand what it means.
Right, okay.
In the English market, it's very easy. But yeah, but I think that to build a brand, again, I'm repeating myself, but focus is key. So, for example, you have to decide what you are and what you are not. And you have to decide the real value of a brand is what our clients experience from us. So brand should have processes attached to it. So if not, it's just a logo. Okay, we confused logo with brand. Okay, so logo is one thing, and the brand is how we answer every email that every person that want to get in touch with us want. Is that I personally answer every request that I have on LinkedIn or in my email, even if I don't know the person. That's brand. To try to give our best in every service that we do. That's our brand. So to build brand is something that you can do on a daily basis, and we ask our employees and our franchisees to build every day. Is to make someone that is trustable for others, that we are going to deliver a third-time service, and we are going to appreciate your business. So and having values and how to implement those values on a daily basis. So for me, brand is something that we are every day building, every day. And you have to, it's like a snowball, that you add the snowflakes to the snowball, but you have to be careful of not adding the bad snowflakes to the snowball. So it's something that you have to build very carefully, respect a lot. And I think that it's something that compounds over time. That's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it ties in with what you're saying about focus, staying within that niche and then becoming that, and then building that authenticity as well as the visual, like backing it up with the action, for sure. Alejandro, I'm so thankful for you to join me today. I've just got one more question, which I always ask everyone. Yeah, sure. And if you were going to go back in time and give yourself a bit of advice, as a younger person, whether it's leaving university, etc.? What would that piece of advice be?
Ooh, that's hard, because I think that, well, I'm 34 right now. So when I was 44, I thought that I knew everything. So when you get older, you discover that you don't know nothing. Neither I don't know nothing yet. So I will say to myself that probably to have very clear what's important in life, and that business is very important, but it's not the main thing. To have that crystal clear, and to spend time with people you like, you love, and enjoy every day. It's not about where you are going, it's about the way, and it's about the process. It's about enjoying every day. So that probably is something like very philosophical, but something that I wish I knew when I was 24.
Yeah, for sure. No, I echo them as well. I think it's, like you said, it's difficult to tell your 24-year-old self that when you think you know it all at that age. So No, really appreciate your time, and looking forward to watching the growth of the company, and maybe having you back on when you hit that 100 mark. Yeah, sure.
It has been my pleasure. So I will be here anytime you want, and thank you very much, and congratulations, because you are building an amazing company, and this podcast, I think it's something that I really learned from the guests that you have. So many thanks for having me.
Gracias, and que tenga buen día.
Muchas gracias, James.